Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today I'm here with Chaldea Gurus.
Hello, I'm Musaki from the Chaldea Gurus. What's going on, guys?
And we're going to be talking to you guys about the Evocation Festival that just came out on JP. For those of you guys that don't know, this is the new system for exchanging for welfares that we're going to be getting, is the Evocation Leaves. And again, I think it's a pretty interesting system. I know I had talked to you already about it a little bit, and you were already saying good things about it.
100%. It's I feel like it's a good step in the right direction that Lasangle's taking. I just hope they follow up on it.
Yeah, I think it's funny too, because like if you go into the I was just mocking this a little bit before stream, that they basically said that in the future we plan to add more distribution servants that can be obtained, and I'm like, well, that sounds great, but when? Right, like that'll be the next thing. Is, will this be another main interlude scenario, or are they going to roll out several of them right here off the bat? That we don't know.
It could definitely take it a few different directions. I think it would buy them time.
Yep,
for sure, because it is no secret that they're behind.
Yeah, I think they might stall for something like the collab event that'll be coming out basically at the end of April. So I wonder if that's what they're going to do now for this time period, is instead of give us another event or a rerun or something like that, they might just do multiple parts of the Evocation Festival, kind of like they did with the Grail Live pre-campaign that we'll be getting this year on an A.
Which I can't wait for, by the way.
Yeah,
one of the few events I'm excited for this year.
It was one of my favorite collabs just for the music alone, but then you also got the costumes and then the unique mechanic that was in that one too. That was really nice.
Yeah, definitely. It was a work of. It made people happy to just finally see their favorite servant get a little bit of a spotlight. Yep. Like Serenity and I guess Nero for the umpteenth time. But you know, we take what we can, right? Exactly.
But yeah, so and then the first three that we got were Kentucky Rider, Shooting Doji Caster, and Ket's Ruler. So what do you think about those three?
I feel like that's a good spread. Obviously they're right off the gate with the Rider Kentucky, which is great. Fantastic. He's a year one welfare, so that's still holds up to this day, still seen and talked about. Shutin and Quetz is like, it's okay. I would say Quetz is more important than Shutin because Quetz never got that rerun. Yep. So now that she has a chance to get obtained, for those people who missed it the first time, it's like, there you go. Your chance is here now. What about you? What do you think about the selections that they have? Well,
I agree with you in that regard, and I'm a little bit worried that now they've pretty much doomed the Cats rerun, that it'll never happen since we got
pretty much, yeah. They're never doing that again.
Which, again, I think reruns were something that they're not dead, but they were already just kind of on life support at this point. So that is one of the things I think that with this sort of campaign here, with them bringing back the old welfares, they're probably going to get rid of a lot of the need to do a lot of the reruns, or at least get people off their back about it so much. But I did like Kentucky, because again, he's probably one of the, if not the most requested welfares. Shooting Caster, she is nice, but sadly I think she's a little bit behind the times now at this point, since so many of the other single target casters have charge, and several of them have gotten upgrades now at this point. So I really wonder why in particular her, especially not accompanying any sort of upgrade. I think this would have been a good time to actually roll out some welfare upgrades, but sadly she didn't get one here. But I was surprised that they chose her in particular, since she had already had her rerun. But I guess maybe this is the same sort of thought process as they just did the like 3-in-1 Halloween 2 years ago. So that'll be coming up for us this year on an A. But maybe they're just like, hey, let's now hit the next welfare in that Halloween chain, which was Shooting.
Right, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and then obviously Cats, which was just missing.
Right, absolutely missing. Like, you didn't get her, she was gone. Now at least you have a chance.
And Cats is another one that I feel like they maybe could do something for her, because at least as far as a lot of the like AoE rulers are concerned, almost all of them have charge, and Cats is basically just this one that kind of doesn't. I still think she's really good in quality and worthy of your attention, but like Yeah, she feels kind of left out in that regard, that she doesn't really have that hard survival skill. She doesn't really have charge or anything else like that. So she's kind of just this one-stop shop, like crit machine that has decent survivability already as a ruler, at least.
Right. I wonder though, like with them adding these units like this, that it opens them up to actually be getting sort of rank up quests.
Yeah.
Because now that they can be obtained, there's no reason that they can just go back and touch them up.
Yeah, and that was probably one of the reasons why they hadn't, was just, you know, especially for welfares that hadn't been back in years, like what was really the point of giving them a buff at that point? Because they knew, I guess, that, you know, some of the newer population wouldn't have them. So like if you remember, they actually buffed both the Shikis, and in the process obviously the welfare got buffed, but we didn't get access to the welfare again. So there were a lot of people that were angry about that.
Yeah, no, I remember that. It was quite weird. I mean, I was happy for it, but it's just like, well, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna leave everyone else behind now?
Right. And I think maybe at the time they didn't know what they wanted to do. I guess they didn't want to do a like K&K main interlude, which I actually wish they would, because I know they've said that like the main interludes are supposed to be very story focused, but they've kind of talked about like the original Dante's event and how they wanted that to be like, they wanted it to be permanently available so that the players could understand what Dante's backstory was. And it's like, that's cool, but imagine being one of the K&K characters now, and it's like, yeah, if someone didn't play K&K or hasn't watched the movies or anything like that, they're not gonna know, sort of just sitting there reading the Bond lines. Right.
On top of that too, like technically Garden of Sinners event was actually key to that. It was the whole start to Dante. It introduced him.
Yep.
So like I feel like that's still important.
Yeah, that's honestly, so let me ask you this, because I'll segue into it here, but one of my most desired welfares to see at this point on JP, because I don't have her, is Shiki. So who would you like to see coming back with the system here? Because I'm going to assume we can't get everyone right off the bat, but...
Right. It's probably because some of it, even though they own like the property, it's probably licensing still. They have to like go through for certain things. But for me, aside from Shiki, because I really love Garden Sinners or K&K in general, it'd be Chloe.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
She is such an important single target archer. Like, and yeah, all the archers are really good, but she just stands alone as like a 4-star that could actually tangle with some 5-stars in a very her style. So if that was given to everyone, it would give them a single target DPS that can kind of be a little self-sufficient and work well with Caster Artoria and everything else.
She's got that hard survival. She's got that 50% charge. That's always nice. And I've tried telling people this is like, you know, throughout the years, the one thing that still kind of holds true is like, you can't be a bad unit if you have 50% charge, basically. As long as they don't totally mess up what your kit is, you should be a decent option for some people. So that alone is a huge asset to people if they can bring her back.
Right, exactly. And it, you know, it'd be good. Like, she's also pretty early in FGO's life cycle.
Yeah.
So like, you know, there's a reason why she's part of like, to me, like the big 3 or the big 5 of like those welfare units that are just so good that you know, you need them, and you get free 5 copies.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm surprised a little bit that we haven't seen like a almost redux of some of those early events. Like why haven't we gotten like a Prisma Cosmos 2 or something like that, or a K&K Part 2? Where it's not the same, but they're able to bring back all the stuff from the original while writing a new story, and basically just go like, hey, here's a new, it doesn't even have to be a collab event per se. They could just say, oh, the connection's already been formed, and so now they can just kind of cover that again and sort of embellish the story even more.
And also draw more people into those characters. I mean, what I was telling people not too long ago, we watched a video that my chat really wants you to see, so I'll probably send it to you to watch. But like FGO is such a unique game in that their universe is so large and they're so popular. They make so much money in JP. They don't need to collab with anyone else because they haven't even collabed all of their own projects.
Right.
So like, It'd be very. I mean, they should just. I feel like they're a little squandering it a little bit. I mean, last year they're not. Last year they're just blowing their load, giving us almost every single fan wanted servant in like a year's time.
Oh yeah.
But I think they needed to, because they needed like some upswing.
Yeah, and I don't want to necessarily get into that, but okay, so how do you feel about the rate in which they're giving out the leaves and like the costing, like the overall economy of this system right now?
For me, I think it's honestly the best system cost-wise they have done.
Yeah.
Like, we've come a long way from USOs. Like, the fact that they've permanently added that you can get 30 leaves a day so long as you do your dailies.
Right.
Meaning in 7 days you can get a copy of a welfare.
Yeah.
And just, like, there you go. Like, in a month's time, and that gives you something to do. At least you give you a reason to log in.
Yep.
And if they keep doing this, maybe like on a monthly basis, man, they probably won't. But like bi-monthly, every other month.
Yeah.
At least to do Evocation, that would give some consistent content.
Because I think it's like over like, I think it's somewhere over 2,000 leaves per like everything for a welfare, which is like, yeah, if you start considering that at 30 a day, you're basically looking at like what, 900 a month then. So
yep.
Yeah, it's not a bad rate. You would get a lot over time, and even still, there's going to be other things like kind of like you see with the release of this, where they give us a lot just from doing the missions associated with it.
And then on top of the fact of completing the story too. Yeah,
and then you get it from story, and then they also basically kind of tease that they could give them out from events as well. So I thought that was really intriguing. But
agreed.
I do think it's interesting from a standpoint of, and I'd already kind of posed this to my chat several nights before, is that like, depending on the rate, you know, you're eventually going to reach a point where like a lot of your player base is kind of quote unquote done with them, right? Either they're done with all of the released welfares, or they're done with maybe like everything once they get them all out. And so then what purpose do the leaves serve after that? Because you're just going to keep accumulating them. And this is where I had talked about it before, that and you know, I mentioned this on the other video that I did as well, that, well, this is obviously not confirmed, that during the live stream they basically said and coins, and they didn't necessarily qualify it as a welfare only thing. So
correct.
And I was pointing out that this could be the system in the end that they would use to fix servant coins, that it's a gated system that you have to get over time, that they, like you can't just bum rush it basically.
Right. No, exactly that. I was thinking of the exact same thing, because I saw that they mentioned coins, but they didn't specify what type. I was like, well, that's perfect. Now you can buy those coins that you're looking for. I mean, I'm not sure how they would do that, like whether it be like you just all the coins are in the shop, you can buy the service, if they are a rotation, like sabers this time, archers this time, like, but it leaves them open for options that you now have a currency to be able to get these coins. And if they're going to put them in events like they say they are, this could be potential, but it's all theory craft at this point. All we have is just a little shop and the missions that they gave us.
But I do agree with you. I think the rate here is very generous. It's very nice. It doesn't feel stingy for once. It actually feels like it's something you can work towards, and that there is progression and a path forward, rather than like, oh, you got a whale, or oh, it's just strangleholded. Like, you look at something like, say, like the faux pas or something like that, and it's like, wow, you get one a week, and it takes you basically 2.5 years to finish one servant. And then you look at something like this, and you'll be finishing them pretty regularly, as opposed to that sort of system. So
at a very consistent rate, where it feels like you're achieving actual progress.
Which is one of the things I was talking about with people over time, is that I understood why they didn't want to bring back all the welfares right at once without attaching some sort of cost, some sort of like performance metric that you had to go through. Because again, their ultimate goal with this is to keep you playing the game. And so I think they've done this really well, that they've made it so that, hey, if you're, you know, logging in every day, if you're playing the game on a regular basis, if you're completing story, those are the things they really want you doing. We've heard it numerous times about them trying to get you to get story done. So I think the more they attach to that, the better in that regard.
I agree. Give someone an actual goal to aim toward.
Right.
Finally, which is obviously you have the goal of like, hey, if you level up all your servants, you get rewards in that way. They're really just saying, hey, just play the game.
Yeah.
Just enjoy these systems that we have. That was a point that I was going to bring up. I ended up losing it. No, you're good. I thought about it while you were talking. It might come back later, but this is still a very good step. But what I'm intrigued about is about future welfares.
Yeah.
How are they going to treat that? Are they going to? They're going to be immediately added to the shop after? Are they going to be like a cooldown to where like get them later? It's a lot of things.
I would think we would all hope they get immediately added, but knowing the devs, they'll probably, like you said, give it a cooldown or something like that.
Of course, but it'd be nice. Like, I feel like what they're doing with like Crane's shop with the costumes is very good.
Yeah,
and I don't know what happened, but there's definitely a shift in ideology of how they're making their game right now. Maybe I'm not sure if it's because of funds. I'm not sure if it's because of like they're seeing people complain and like they're actually kind of worried because it's not just NA people. It's like actual their own Japanese fans who are like, hey, look, what's going on?
Yep. Yeah, and that's it's an interesting thing to me because it's something I always try to talk about with chat is that like whenever we see a lot of these changes, like you got to think like we've been complaining about welfare for forever. So what changed? But similarly, these things don't just change overnight, right? Like they have to spend the time actually to develop it and come up with the system and then get all the assets in place and code it properly so that it doesn't totally break whenever you patch the game. So it's like I always assume that these things have several months of lead time at minimum. But so like I don't know if it was like the most recent survey that caused this. I don't know if it was a panic attack or anything like that where they're going like, oh no, we gotta do something, so much as they just finally got around to implementing this. And I think it, maybe it might be even as far back as like last anniversary or the survey from last year rather than even this one where we're finally getting this from now.
Yeah, that's one thing I do like. They do really pay attention to that survey.
Yeah.
It's not often that people will like. I feel like it's almost like a given. Like some companies will like, we'll just do the survey just because publicity, formality. But they're actually following up. It's like, oh, well, the survey says this. Let's make that thing, and it turns out to be pretty successful because of that. I wonder because Aniplex owns them now, like fully, and maybe just Ono is maybe just like a figurehead of it, because I know they took Ono as well.
I've wondered that for a while myself, is like how much of a role is Ono actually playing, because like we've had several interviews with them, either like from the actual anniversary, or even with some of those I don't know if you read them, but like the recruitment interviews that they did where they're hiring people and they're trying to talk a little bit about it, and one of them was with Ono and stuff like that. But I wonder, like, is he actually making a lot of these changes versus like, some of it was just this antiquated like structure that they had, because they talked a lot about how they had to like totally restructure the company so that, the people were actually able to work like across projects with each other, because you always got to assume that it's like, oh, there's one person, or one group rather working on events, one group working on story, one group working on the next set of servants, And so it sounded like, I guess before that restructuring, they weren't talking to each other, which is
goodness, that would explain a lot. Man, I can imagine that. But that happens more than you think in any game company. So, but I'm glad they tackled it. This took them a while, but
well, and I think you saw as well. They did a recent was it like management meeting basically that they had, like some sort of summit. Which
we don't even know what came of that. I don't think.
I'm really surprised they didn't talk about that at all. Like even at like the most recent live stream or something. So maybe for the Golden Week collab stream, we'll actually get some news out of that or something. But
I'm pretty excited for it. Honestly, it's coming down the pipeline. I know also people are just excited about arcade in general. There's some positive buzz around Fate Grand Order again, because
which definitely feels
December
nice.
January time was a lot of doomer talk.
Well, and I think this is a natural thing where if we don't have content coming out, people are bored, they want something to do, and certainly, especially amongst content creators as well, right? Like, we're starved for content at that point, so it gets rough. But I think these systems that are coming out here, because again, we got Class Score that still hasn't come out, and they said that'll be the spring, but that's a really interesting thing to see what they're going to be doing with this and how it's going to impact the game long term.
Right. It feels like they're slowly but surely trying to make this more of an actual RPG and not just like a mobile game. It reminds me back in the day when they said, I think it was around the 5th or 6th anniversary, that they had up until year 10 of content planned. Yeah. But that Tucson's goal is that he wanted to change the game fundamentally. He wanted to evolve it from what it was. And like with that like spear grid like system, that class system, that's a step in that direction.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially, I think this is something that over time too, they've always kind of tried to need to get out a new system every once in a while to keep the game fresh, to mix things up, to keep your player base engaged.
Right. Because, well, it also shows that they care, because there's a lot of companies that will just kind of let it be. Like, oh, this generates money, it does it, we'll just keep it going. That's just a good example. They don't really rock the boat, they keep it the same. Release new characters, move on. But the fact that they're deciding, you know what, we can improve it. We can add something to make the experience better for the players. Yeah. Shows that they care.
So what do you think about not getting rare prisms from the 6th copy or more?
I mean, that kind of makes sense though, because like you're using the leaves to buy the copies. So essentially, you buying the rare mana prisms. Oh yeah, I remember. Speaking of that, I'm glad they didn't just lock these behind rare mana prisms.
Yes.
Like oh man, it could have been like 1,000 mana prisms per copy, or like 10 rare mana prisms, and it could have been horrible. So I'm glad it just like, no, we'll use this new system and go from there. It's a lot better.
And this is one of the things that I was worried about too, that I had mentioned, is like devil's advocate here. You could get leaves and buy the single copy of the unit, and then the additional copies took the rare mana prisms, and you're like, oh no.
yeah. Then I was honestly worried that's what they were going to go with it.
So at least they didn't do that to us. They could have been worse, but
it could have been way worse. They're learning. This is good.
I actually haven't heard, but so if you know, let me know. But as far as I can tell, they haven't made any sort of announcement about the existing main interlude welfares that you can get, and they're costing rare mana prisms. So I assume they're going to refund those at a point.
Look, that'd be very good for players if they did that. I'm not sure what they're going to do. Like, it's just a lot of things in the game right now that, like, I still think they need to do something about that USO system. Eventually, they have to tackle that. Yeah. But overall, I mean, I think they're going in the right direction.
Yeah. No, I think this is great, and I hope they keep up with this. I hope that the class score system is more of that it's more geniusness, and it's directed in a positive way and stuff like that. I think realistically speaking, if we can get the coin fix, we're pretty good at that point. There's not a lot of issues. I think people would maybe argue about the pity system and stuff, but overall the game is pretty good at that point. And I think this actually helps one of my big standpoints that I've talked about for the game for a long time, which is that FGO actually is very free-to-play friendly. But not having the welfares was always like one of those major sort of thorns in everyone's side. So having pure prisms, having the tutorial missions that give you statues and monuments, having now the leave system and the ability to purchase welfares, this is going to be amazing, and pretty much the perfect time to start FGO in that regard. Right.
I guess my only concern, my only like thought that they could, if they had to improve something at this point, something about their onboarding of new players. Yeah. I'm not sure about you, but ever since Pekaro started playing FGO, a lot of VTubers are now starting to pick up FGO. And they were like, I don't know what this does. I'm confused about this. Whatever, I'm just going to do this. And I'm like,
Yep.
And it is a lot of stuff. They throw a lot of stuff at you, way more than when we started. Like, oh, hey, you get a free servant. Oh, hey, don't forget this. Oh, hey, don't forget that. And I'm like,
yeah,
ooh, we could probably work on that. But that's nitpicky, honestly.
Well, and I totally agree with you. I think the onboarding, like you said, the tutorial systems have always been terrible in FGO. Now, I'd say at least for probably one of the bigger issues that first part of the story is so easy that it gives you time to sort of, you know, find your bearings and stuff like that. But the problem is a lot of people kind of blitz through it and solo it and get done with it as fast as possible. And so that is maybe one of the concerns, is sort of that pressure, that need to just go and get up to date on the story so that you don't miss out on anything. And at least part of that will probably get addressed here with that, where if you have welfares coming back, if someone misses in an event, it's not the end of the world. They don't miss the welfare, right?
Exactly. There's a chance for them to come back. Like, even their own voice actors and actresses have been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I would really love it if I can get like Caster Liz, even though I know she's not that good. I'm sad that I missed her and I can't get her back. So,
but yeah, I think that's definitely something that that they need to work on long term.
Yeah, like, especially like, I don't know, like Lost Belt 7, I know people got on them really hard for that, and maybe it was a little deserved, but it seemed like they were just trying something really ambitious with maybe a system that can't really do everything they want it to do.
Yeah,
right off rip. But they're trying.
And not to get into spoilers or anything here for people, but like, I think they'll maybe have a problem if they try to start locking stuff behind the completion of 7, behind Ordeal Call, with the way it currently sits. Now, they could sort of revisit it kind of like they did with Solomon back in the day, and just kind of make it a little bit easier. Again, we had talked about like the inability to use like blue prisms and stuff like that, but if they start allowing that sort of thing, that would make it a lot easier, and then people would have the ability to get through it. But
right, yeah, no, I agree with that. I did notice they're starting to do way more permanent servants. Either permanent or limited, but not much story lock, which I appreciate.
Yeah, we haven't had too much story locked in a long time, which, I mean, I don't hate it so much as just the story locks basically just feel limited because nobody really wants to roll story, and that's maybe something that they could revisit, is ramping up the story banner at some point to make it actually more worthwhile somehow. And I don't know how they want to do that. Like, I've talked about it with chat before, like, hey, you know, maybe you could do something crazy like some sort of rotational rate up on days or something like that, or even
yeah, I thought about that, like a weekly rotation through stories, and that way I'll get someone to roll for, like, oh, I'll just wait for this week to roll for this servant.
Exactly.
And it gives them
it's better than just throwing your quartz into the ocean and hoping that you land the right fish, right? It's at least you would have, it wouldn't be as good as an actual rate up, but it would be more focused, more specialized somehow.
Right, exactly. It wouldn't be like a wishing well sort of situation where it's like, oh man, I wish.
Well, they could just turn it into a gigantic class banner, basically. That rotates.
I mean, they could. They could definitely do that. Another thing that at least Nikkei showed me is that it might be a little bit of a fantasy, at least in this current form, but them having a wish list style system, to where like it increases it just kind of eliminates the other servers that you don't want. It focuses like, hey, there's only these servers in the pool right now.
You mean you didn't want your NP20 Fion?
Exactly, or my MP25 Emiya when I tried to roll for Ishtar.
Yes, the red man.
Oh God, I love Emiya, but not that much. But yeah, it would be really good in that regard. Maybe just pick pick like 5 from each class, and then there you go.
But yeah, I definitely think that's something that they can do better with. And again, like, just kind of going back to your earlier point about like getting people to complete the story and everything like that, I'm okay, especially with the onboarding issue. Like, people get bombarded at first with all the new stuff, and especially you got to think, right? Like, we have 7 years of new mechanics basically that have sort of been front loaded. So if they want to do more stuff like, say, grail casting, or again, maybe they lock the class score system somewhere deeper behind story completion, I'm okay with that, because that sort of gets it deeper into the game where you've adjusted, you've had your time, and now it's not this just immediate thing that you have to do and have to juggle with everything else.
Exactly.
So it makes it a little bit more of an end game system. And yeah, you could get someone that blitzes through, but if they do that, then that's on them, right? Then they know the hell that they're getting into at that point.
Exactly. At least it's of their choice, their own volition, sort of thing.
But at least if they do that, it like I said, it gets it out away from the beginning of the game where the person just goes, oh wait, I have to do that too? Oh God. Because I think that's one of the hardest things for new players is trying to give them some sort of like pecking order to do things in, and it's not an easy thing to describe to people, and it ends up changing depending on like what the person has done, who they've rolled, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it gets a little difficult. Like, I'm trying my best to make content that's geared toward newer players, because granted, like not many people are going to start searching for stuff online unless they're genuinely interested, but like the field is so filled with like people who like are catering toward players who played for a while or have a lot of stuff or challenges, but there's not much out there for like the newbie player. Like, hey, where do I start?
Yeah, I think you and I have both always kind of tried to like cover the topics that people don't talk about.
No one really talks about it.
Like it's just taken for granted by everyone.
Yeah.
Like if you're a longtime player, you know all of these things, and you know, again, I've made several videos, I'm sure you have as well, where like someone's come in and basically said like, oh my God, I've been playing the game for years and I never knew this.
Yep, I get that like, comment a lot. No. I made like a couple newbie videos a couple years ago that still get comments on it. Like, I just started playing last week. This guy helps out. I'm like, man, well, I need to make an update because this is even more added that you're gonna need to know now. But hopefully though, this will be good. I think they're taking advantage of the fact that the more eyes are on the game. I still laugh at the fact that they found a glitch that was in the game 7 years where a support service, Noble Phantasm, just did a lot less damage on this one node because Pekaro played it. It was like, why did this MP5 level 120 2K gold-filled unit only do 900 damage? It was like, oh, that's a problem.
Yep.
Emergency fix. So like, oh, all right. Proactive.
Well, it's really funny too, because you know I've talked about this. Has maybe even been a sore spot for me at points of almost how like anti-content creator that Aniplex gets at times.
Yes, they are.
I mean, you look at something like that, and then all of a sudden they're paying attention, and it's like, hey, maybe do more of this. Like, I don't think any of us are necessarily arguing that they need to pay attention to us, right? Like, it's not so much selfish concern as like they're not paying attention to anyone other than Pekara. Where pretty much because of that, they're losing out on valuable networking that they can do. They're losing out on free marketing for their game, and as a result, it basically just ends up turning a lot of the content creators against them because they end up being anti-content creator. The content creators don't view Aniplex in a positive light, and that becomes a bit of an issue for them.
Agreed. It definitely does come a little issue. I remember before too, they were even like kind of like definitely anti-creator, like didn't really want to speak to them too much.
Yep.
The one thing I will say early on when I was at Anime Expo, NYC, sorry, I got to talk to Albert, I got to talk to Jesus Kuhn and everyone else. At the time, it really felt like they understood the game and they were fans of the game, which gave me hope, at least on the NA side, that like, okay, they're gonna try and do right by us. But one of the things they said is like, we watch your guys' videos, we honestly do. It's just our hands are tied. We can't really do much as we want. I've
always expected was the case. That like is sort of they're just kind of the localization staff and they go to bat for us, they do what they can, but ultimately because we are the server that is also run by LaSingle, just like JP is, that JP has that final word, that final say, and if JP doesn't want to do something for us or they don't want to allow something, it's not happening.
Pretty much. Which is sad. I feel like at least I guess there's some silver lining that at least with those surveys they actually didn't ignore the English speaking ones. They could have easily done that.
I think it's astounding to me that there's times where I feel like our NA side of things doesn't matter and will never impact anything, but the surveys actually do feel like they listen to us and that they are actually doing stuff at times, which is good. I think they could be a lot worse in that regard.
Yeah, no, they could be pretty worse. I'm glad they've grown as a company. They've grown overall. I guess like right now the future is uncertain. Right, but at the very least there seems to be like at least there's enough content for the next couple of years for people not be concerned. Because I remember people was like, "Oh, well, I guess this is it. This is the end." And I was kind of prepping for like the end until we get to the story. And it's like, oh,
I think, and I know this is going to sound really bad to people out there that are huge fans of him, but I actually pin a lot of that on Nasu. He kind of just kept doom and glooming every time we got an interview with him, saying, 100%. "Oh, you need to be prepared for the end. It's coming to an end." And it's not. And that's basically what we always assumed was going to be the case. And to be fair to him, it's again, he can't just be like, "Oh yeah, here's my master plan. It's going to go for this many years. Here's all the parts." Like, you got to assume he has to throw you off the scent some, but
right, a little bit. But that definitely was like the moment that our interview was like translated, it spread like wildfire.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that sadly ends up having a ripple effect on the community, where if Nasu is saying, "Hey, this is coming to an end," then it's naturally going to make people doomers on that subject. But yeah, it's good to finally have Ordeal Call confirmed, to know there is something beyond, to know this isn't the end, and so we'll be able to see where we head from here. I am hopeful that we get some kind of news in that regard soon, because I am surprised they haven't given us a like actual, "Hey, the next chapter of the story is going to be at X date." Like, even if it's not a specific date, like maybe the fall or the winter or something like that.
They're still definitely teasing it. Like the fact that they had one of the units show up in like a Valentine's. Was it a Valentine's or was it White Day?
The
guy. There was the guy that showed up at just an event. Like what?
I think it was White Day, but
yeah, it was White Day. And it was just like, okay,
so long. Avalon is saying Valentine's Day.
It was Valentine's Day.
This is the issue that the 3-week events are doing to me right now, is I begin to lose all track of time.
Honestly, like it just runs together.
But yeah, at least they're kind of slowly segueing us into that, and that's something I think is good. And you can let me know what you think about this, but one of the things that I was saying is that I actually kind of wish they dropped the Cosmos and the Lost Belt branding from this. I understand it probably ties in, but to me, I think they need to be plastering Ordeal Call in much bigger lettering, because that will make it seem like it's something new and get more people intrigued with that, versus, hey, it's just more of the same.
Right, exactly. People are saying, "Oh, well, what is this? Is this like Arc 3?" Yeah. I'm like, well, technically it is. Technically, is it? It's not like Epic of Remnants is. That's for sure. It's definitely not that. It's like the next stage. It's weird, but yeah.
Well, hopefully this is a good sign of things to come, though, in that regard.
It's not many things more that they can do to improve the game outside of just remaking the entire thing or something like that, which I think that's kind of far off. I think the life cycle of FGO is nothing to be really be concerned about at this point.
Yeah. I think we had that going concern for a while there, thanks to Nasu, but now it looks like, we're locked in for at least a couple more years here, so this is nothing to be afraid of.
Exactly. Oh man, which is good. I'm excited to be excited about FGO again, because for a bit it did, like, there was a bit of a lull, but now it's like, okay, there's a bit of hope.
Yep.
I'm with it. Let's keep going. Hopefully we'll hear more on this Golden Week stream. I feel like they're gonna like come hard with that, because they teased the new unit. Yeah, they tease a little bit, but there's got to be more. I feel like there's more. They just kind of
didn't tell us too much about the actual event, right? Like, it was just, hey, you're getting Arcade. Hey, you're getting Larva Tiamat. Have fun. And it's like, whoa, okay, hold on.
Like, are we getting welfares? Are there more units? Like, That's my immediate concern. Is like, cause I kind of want that Rider Nero. Not gonna lie, go ahead and pass that over here. But man, hey, Grand Order, man.
So does this cover everything then?
I kind of feel like it does. Like, the events are coming. I know people are still scared about no reruns. Reruns will happen in their time. It's just I think they're focusing now on like improving the game.
And I think the big thing to be concerned about with regards to reruns is, one, missing story. Two, missing resources, right? I've heard this from people that, like, oh, if they don't get a rerun or if they don't unlock the event, that's story locked or something like that in time to do it, that basically you're missing out on resources that you kind of need if you're, someone more free to play or someone that's not all the way caught up with story. But again, I think stuff like Pure Prisms at least resolves the resource side of that.
Exactly, definitely, especially if they keep like adding more to it. I feel like eventually we'll need to like reset that or something, because eventually you need to refill. Like, I know I've used up all of my heroes proof, so I was like, hey,
I think, and this is a weird thing, because I've tried to talk with people about this, about like trying to step into the dev shoes, right? They have to put some kind of limitation on Pure Prisms, otherwise no one farms anything.
That's true.
Right? So it's like they have to give you some kind of like, hey, look, yeah, you can keep getting Pure Prisms, but there's only 100 of these materials, right? But I do think you're right. I think somewhere down the line, they may come back in and be like, all right, now there's 200 of them or something like that. Like,
right. Yeah, like nothing immediate.
That a lot of people have kind of just used all of their Pure Prisms.
Yeah, I would, because they show that they're looking at it, because they're looking at like how many players have actually leveled up to a certain level cap. So I know they're looking at, okay, well, how many players have actually used up all of the items in the shop? So like, they just, once they get to a point where they feel like they can, I think it would be good. But for now, like you said, this game is all about farming.
Yep.
Like, you need to farm.
That keeps you going, right? And it's just bringing it back to servant coins there. That's why I've said that kind of one of the issues with servant coins is with it locked only behind rolling, essentially, and bonding, obviously. But like, bonding, you can only get so much, and it takes a long time to do anything with. Whereas locking behind rolling, well, now it very much is a factor of how much you spend on the game. And even then, it's the availability of banners and stuff like that. So you become this weird sort of bottleneck with your system where, even though it's supposed to be this new treadmill that you have your players on, you can't actually get them to step on the treadmill, because basically they're priced out of it. They can't actually either have the banner that they need to get the coins or roll enough, because they don't whale on the game in order to be able to get the coins that they need to perfect their unit. So it's why one of the proposed fixes that I was saying would be something like this Leaf system, where, hey, it's this graduated system that you kind of get from playing the game more and more and more, where you can slowly work towards it. Maybe you can't get all of your units, all of their coins, but you can get your favorites and you can work towards them, and that gives you goals, something to actually do.
Exactly, because you got to compete. I know they want to compete. I mean, I know they obviously can. They still make a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like eventually, like, if they didn't like change things, they didn't act, it would go down. It would go down, because it's an older game.
It is,
like,
and
they,
I think
they have a lot working against it.
So it's really interesting to me, because I've heard people say, like, is FGO past its prime or something like that? It's a 70-year game. It's getting too old. And I'm like, oh, look, we've still got games that they're like League of Legends and stuff like that, where people are just playing it for forever, right?
Yep.
And
correct.
I don't think it's the age of the game that's the issue so much as they have had some issues with content pacing. And I think if they don't get back to form in that regard, they will suffer. Like, you will end up having players that just kind of check out, that are bored with the game. They've kind of done everything, and that's, again, kind of why you need that servant coin system up and running, so that players have something to work towards, something to do, even if they have leveled up all their units, even if they have skilled up all their favorite units and grailed them and stuff like that. Like, you need some sort of additional goal for the people that have been playing the game a long time. And that's...
Fully agree.
Yeah, and I was going to say, that's a little bit something to be concerned with, is that while we're all happy to get the welfares back, if you're a day one player on JP, you don't care.
Yeah.
You have them all. So the only thing you really get out of this then is the coins, basically.
Yeah, the coins and the fact maybe you missed like a mat early on, because day one JP, like I remember very clearly, like most of us were just kind of figuring out what to do. Like it took a while for people to understand that waiver was good. I remember talking, waiver's the worst.
Day one, he didn't have any charge. So.
He didn't. That's correct. They did fix him and make him a lot better. Oh man, those were the days. Remember 4 courts to summon and 40 courts to 10 roll. Ugh.
Yeah, my April Fool's video also teased a bunch of that old stuff, as well as the BP system and like just things that nobody ever wants back ever again.
Oh man, the BP system with the first ever raids and Ibaraki and.
Yep.
Oh, the Gaishima, when it first came out, was another beast entirely.
Well, and the picture I used in that video is the 8 BP bar, but it used to only be 6, and it was 1 hour per point of BP. So you couldn't even sleep through the whole night if you didn't want to cap out and waste BP, which was crazy to me.
It was so bad, but they moved it. It shows, like, I know I saw a video from All Muscle, where he's like, yeah, this is FGO day one, this is FGO now, and it's like, it has done a lot. It's come a long way.
And you know, NA didn't have to suffer through half of that. We have I've seen people joke that JP is the beta server, but like JP has had it rough at times, and NA always gets that like easy route that JP that JP like took forever to get the fix for. Like, you know, if we do get a coin fix or something like that, or again even this welfare system, I wouldn't be surprised to see this sort of thing come to NA early.
Yep, exactly, because like they learned that lesson. It's like, oh, we figured it out, well, what's the reason that we wait? Might as well just put it in there.
People can wait their 2 years for units, people can wait their 2 years for story, but quality of life, especially if it impacts enjoyment of the game and player retention, needs to come as fast as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I hard agree on that.
Those are always things that I think, and obviously as the players we want that, but that benefits even the developer, even the basically the entire system, right? Like everything ends up better for it, and it just makes your product so much more quality in that regard.
Exactly. And you can tell, like, FGO, I really don't feel like it's going to go anywhere. It makes them so much money that it actually funds so many projects. So just think about that. Like, it's honestly probably the reason why Arcade even exists is because of FGO. Oh, yeah. Like Extra being remade, all the movies and animes, like, they're coming out, came from Fate Grand Order money. The Tsukihime remake probably wouldn't have been happening without it. Yeah.
Don't tell the Tsukihime fans that, though.
They get so mad. I'm just like, listen, we're all love the same product. It's fine.
But, yeah. Well, all right, then. I was happy to have you on and have this talk. This was a great time.
Yeah, no, as always, when I work with you, Khadroth, there's always a good time.
Yep. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad I reached out. Hopefully we'll get some good news for this Golden Week. We have more to talk about.
Yep. All right, guys. Alrighty. If you haven't already, come check me out on Twitch, and definitely check out Mr. Chaldea Gurus here. I'll put a link to him in the video description below, but we'll see you guys for the next one. Have a good day.
Lock it out.